Kentucky goes on the road and drops one at Texas A&M 96-85. This was a game where they jumped out to an early lead before giving up a 26-2 run to end the first half. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about this loss. But first, we're going to shout out our sponsors over at Tinker Coffee, tinkercoffee.com for the Midwest best. Use promo code SLEEPERS to get 15% off your first order. Subi, let's just get right into it, man. This was I would use the word embarrassing for Kentucky defensively, offensively, top to bottom. A game where you jump out to that early, I believe it was the 30-18 lead with 8 minutes left. You're punking them on the inside. I thought your front court was doing its job. You were getting some good Brandon Garrison minutes, even, and that's something I know, or someone I should say, that Kentucky fans have been low on, frustrated with, ready to drive out of town, whatever terminology you want to lose. And then A&M just flips the script. What did you see unfold late in that first half that turned the tides and got the Aggies out of here with a win?
I was so excited to jump on this recap with you, man. I just had the biggest dumb grin on my face, honestly, for the past like 12 hours, it seems like. What I saw in that run, though, Riley, is horrific decision making from Mark Pope. I don't know what else you can say. It's been a theme over the course of his tenure as head coach with Kentucky where I think it's pretty noticeable. Let's start first and foremost with the substitution patterns. Why are you taking out your starters when you're up 12 and you have a ton of momentum? And then you put in your bench guys who cannot play a lick of defense. Like that lineup cannot defend.
Hmm.
And you saw what the result was 27-3, which is outrageous, right? So I just question, like, there's always been this paralysis by analysis with Mark Pope where I think sometimes he just doesn't think these guys can play extended minutes. And I
Hmm.
think at some point, someone's got to say, hey, stop overcomplicating this. You're in March right now. Just ride the guys you have because
Right.
Kentucky at this point is not like a lot of other solidified, bona fide good teams. Like I'm not even talking about great teams, right? Where you know what you're going to get night in and night out. You're at a point with Kentucky where I think you just have to try and just play the best guys, man. Like stop overcomplicating this. But instead, he puts in the bench. They relinquish a double-digit lead when they had a chance to kind of bury Texas A&M, or at least like keep a double-digit lead. It's a long game, and they just completely let go of the rope, and then they found themselves in a deficit. So substitution number one. Number two, Riley, take your hand and do this. All right, can you mimic with me? Do this. Call a timeout, man. Call a few timeouts. There's nothing worse than when your team is clearly on a run and the opponent's coach, like after a 4-0, 5-0 run, when you're just trying to pop off, the opponent's coach just goes timeout. Texas A&M must have been like, okay, let's just keep going. Mark Pope's not calling timeouts, substitutions, timeouts. That was the biggest thing I saw, Riley.
Yeah, yeah. The substitution patterns were the bench. I mean, it's like Jasper Johnson and Brandon Garrison. They gave you some initial good sparks. I know Jasper made that big three early on, but you kind of hit on some of the defensive issues that he poses. It's almost like he rode those guys for too long, and that's when you started to see A&M turn the tide, get back into this game, hit some big threes. To your point on the timeouts, I'm not even expecting Mark Pope to do anything different. You don't necessarily have to yell at your guys or change what actions you're going to or whatever. Sure, you can make some adjustments, but sometimes there's just some tranquility to be found in slowing the game down, giving your guys a chance to breathe and say, this is what we know our opponent was going to do. This is their MO. We know they want to get up and down. We know they want to take a lot of threes. We can survive this. We were punking them on the inside at first. Let's get back to doing that and kind of playing through Moreno, like or playing through our bigs, letting that open up the rest of the floor. But then again, Subi, even as I'm listing this out, those starting bigs didn't really give Kentucky much. This game opened up with a Malachi Moreno assist, and I was thinking like, yes, let's go. Good call by me. I said they should play through him. They're going to him early and often. We're going to see this lead to a lopsided victory for Kentucky, and it promptly went away. But Andrea Yelovich, we can talk about him some too because I actually thought for as bad as some of these bench guys are defensively, Yelovich really struggled, particularly in the second half. He was getting exposed by Zach Clements. But early on in that game, Malachi Moreno feeds him for a dunk off the short roll. That's just like textbook ball movement, the exact type of easy offense you want to get that, in the preview, we were saying, oh, maybe we're going to start seeing this more from Mark Pope, a guy who we praise for his concepts all off season, but it just completely trickled off after that. I thought A&M did a great job of taking them out of rhythm and forcing them into mistakes. And I mean, you mentioned it with some of the decision making from the Wildcats. Turnovers were a massive, massive issue in this one.
Yeah, and you know what Texas A&M did? They converted those into 18 points. Right?
Mm,
I think Kentucky had 7 turnovers in the first half. Again, this was a game that Kentucky was in control of. They were probably feeling pretty confident, and then just they stopped. And we've seen this, by the way, Riley. I forget who it was against, but we've seen Kentucky just not score for 10 minutes or something. I mean,
hmm
usually it's, hey, no field goals, and you like to make that differentiation or that separation, right? They just don't score any points, even from the line for like 10 minutes
Well,
sometimes, right?
the problem with this one, as they were allowing A&M to get whatever look it wanted in transition and from beyond the arc, they have that stretch where they go 1 for 12 from the floor. I think they closed, I don't know how long, I was kind of counting because they showed the graphic on the screen where they were like one for their last 10 as A&M is building this lead. So I didn't catch the minutes that it eclipsed, sorry, that trying to get some words out here. But the for I know they went into the half like or went into halftime only making one of their final 12 shots. Meanwhile, A&M, Ruben Dominguez, one of our keys to the game in the preview, that dude scored like 11 straight points for A&M. I think he hit eight straight to give them the lead at 31-30, and then gave them another one to put them up 34-32. And yeah, it just seemed like across the board with these perimeter players, whether it was Dominguez or Rylan Griffin, who had like a legacy type performance, those guys were getting whatever they wanted with little resistance. And I think when you take a step back and look at how this game unfolded, there's no one starting point for Kentucky. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the bench stunk it up, the lack of timeouts stunk it up, but this was a comprehensive like butt whooping, so to speak.
Oh yeah, and I give a ton of credit to A&M for picking themselves up off the deck. And look, they've been on this entering this game. They've just been in a bit of a tailspin right now, and I question their fatigue. But to be able to sort of just come up like the Undertaker and say, you know what, let's seize control of this game in front of our home crowd, I was really impressed. And you mentioned Dominguez, you mentioned Rylan Griffin, and we did highlight them in the preview, basically. Or I know in my thoughts of taking the upset here, which by the way, I know I was like kind of saying, I don't know why I'm doing this. It doesn't seem logical. Really, in hindsight, it did. Like, this was a massive letdown spot for Kentucky because of how good they played at home against Vanderbilt, and then you had to go on the road right to Texas A&M, who's very desperate. But Zach Clements, he was also butter from three. Like, those are 40% shooters from distance, and we got it. But you're right about Dominguez, man. He's had some really, really cold stretches for this Aggies team. Who knows? Maybe he's found a little bit of momentum at the perfect time. But
hmm
I mean, really, again, and I think it was in this preview where I said, Riley, I don't want to be Kevin Durant who wants to look at graphs. But they did, like, Kentucky lost the math battle straight up. Like, they dominated points in the paint, which they should. They're bigger than A&M. But the math battle would dictate and show you that A&M just was lights out from three, man, 46%. Like, you're not going to be able to make that up. And then an area of opportunity for Kentucky. I don't think this is where they lost the game. I don't think it relatively would have mattered if you watched the game and how it played out. However, they left 11 points at the line.
hmm
Um, it was an 11-point difference. Again, that's cosmetics. Like, I think
Yeah.
A&M won that game really by like 16 or 17. But I don't know. You get 8 of those points back. Game pressure shifts. Something happens. Who knows? But
Yeah.
those
Maybe
are some
there's
of
a
the
way to
items.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to claw back in if you're a little more crisp at the free throw line, but I just think from the moment they rip off that 26-2 or 27-3, you can pick either. I think 26-2 sounds worse for Kentucky, so that's the why because I really wanted to emphasize you scored 2 points in like a 10-minute stretch. Two. Even going back to some of these offensive droughts, this happened in the Carolina game, one I was tapped into very closely where UNC held them 11 minutes without a basket and You
That's
know,
the one
this
I was referencing. Thank you.
this yeah, sorry, I should have caught that in real time, but this is where you run into issues where, again, we mentioned this in the preview with the volatile nature of this front court. You can't afford to have Denzel Aberdeen go 4 for 10. You can't afford to have Colin Chandler go 1 for 5 with two turnovers where you could have convinced me he had seven. They were only two, but they both felt massive, you know. Malachi Moreno, again, I just I can't get over his disappearing act because this was a matchup that I thought he should dominate with the size advantage there. And aside from that first assist, it seemed like he went quiet, and he had two massive turnovers in the second half. Believe he stepped on the line, like spinning along the baseline with one of them. The other one was a live ball turnover to Rylan Griffin, who went coast to coast and literally just moved past Denzel Aberdeen. He didn't even have to put a move on him. It was just like Denzel got out of the way, Matador style, and was like, "Here you go, Rylan. Let me escort you to the basket." And that's why, like, regardless of the free throw shooting, the offensive woes, etc., I, I I still would probably pencil this more in on the defense because once we got after the intermission, it was like they just let it spiral and snowball and get out of control. Like A&M was absolutely lighting them up in transition. They were lighting them up from beyond the arc. You mentioned Zach Clements. This is where I want to talk about Andrea Yelovich. That dude could not keep track of Clements, despite the fact, I mean, he'd already made two threes and I think he had made one, and Yelovich lost him on the right wing. And then Mo Diabate, who had some nice stretches in this game. I thought he could at least pressure the rim better than anyone else on this Kentucky team too. But there was one play, I think it was Clemens' third three, where he helped off him in the corner. Pop Isaacs finds him right there in the shooting pocket, and you had Jimmy Dykes was drawing it up with the telestrator, letting us know that Pop Isaacs, he knows the ball was going to that corner this entire time. But I'm watching this like, why is Diabate helping off of him? There are three guys in the paint against a team that wants to shoot threes. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to. They like. You're telling me you're scared of Pop Isaac's rim gravity? Like this should not be. Like, what are we doing here?
Sorry. I mean, first you got me with the impersonation. Who's next, man? Who are you gonna do next? You've done Fran, you've done Mark Pope, you've done Jimmy Dykes now.
Got to get refine the Dane Bradshaw one. That'll be
Yeah,
the next. So maybe I'll debut that during the SEC tournament.
yeah. Well, you
SEC
mentioned
tournament
he
week.
sounds like he rips darts. So why don't you start smoking some cigarettes? That could help. No, I look, man. I agree, and I think you bring up a great point with the defense at a high level. When you look at it, you gave up damn near 100, man. Like that's terrible. And at this juncture of the season, Riley, this is Kentucky's that perfect team where, and again, I'm not gatekeeping college basketball. College basketball is for everyone, but we're all going to be in brackets where we're going to have some casuals, and they're going to take Kentucky far, possibly, uh, based off name brand. I could see them as an 8 seed, right? They're going to take Kentucky far, and the thing is that they could be a little justified. They just won't be able to show you their work. They won't be able to justify it. They'll just be like, well, it's Kentucky. And you just kind of have to say, I don't, maybe like Kentucky can be dangerous,
Yeah.
but they can also lose in the first round. Like Kentucky is the epitome of, I don't even think their fans know what they're going to get, right?
Hmm.
Like they're not god awful. They're not world beaters. But the point that I'm making, Riley, is as we record this on March 4th, you have zero idea which Kentucky team you're going to get. I suppose that's fun and what makes the tournament a blast for neutral observers. But you have zero. I have zero idea. Like I genuinely can't diagnose this Kentucky team. I know I said like I err on the side of pro. I like them, but in terms of picking them, you just got to guess your best guess, especially
Hmm.
with the matchup. So I just think like at a high level, it's not fair to the fans to not know who the hell this team is. And that falls on Pope this late into the season, 96 points. Crazy giving up. My last point here, Riley, absolutely zero balance for Kentucky. Everything that you mentioned leads to the lack of balance for sure, but it's pretty staggering to look at what Kentucky was contributing versus what Texas A&M was contributing on their side, right? Like how many guys in double figures? Clemens, Pop Isaacs, Rashawn Agee, Ruben Dominguez, and Rylan Griffin, all in double figures. Mo Diabate and Otega Owe were the only guys in double figures
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
Kentucky, and that's just point production. So some items to really take away.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. It underscores how hilarious those offseason headlines of Kentucky's Noah's Ark, they have two of everything is when you get this zero balance, zero guy. Well, I would say Ortega's really been the one dude you can count on night in, night out, which is sort of
100%.
what we expected. That was what we expected going into the season. That's not really breaking news. In fact, I would say that's more concerning that no one else has stepped up, especially when you think Aberdeen or Chandler are finding a breakthrough and they're finding more consistency. They go on the road, get out of the comforts of Lexington and Rupp Arena, and kind of go back into their turtle shells. Conversely, that balance that A&M showed, you mentioned it. We haven't even touched on Rashawn AG. Like uh, going back to where I thought Kentucky could find an advantage on the interior. AG early second half, he's punking that entire front court for offensive rebounds. They showed the replay of it where he's just like bouncing off of dudes, out hustling them and going up with them and finishing through contract. And that dude is 6'7" and been in college since I think he's also like a 2021 guy. Like started started college back when there were like mask debates going on in this country. Like that dude
Yeah,
has been around
you're
for
not
forever.
kidding. New
I think they
Mexico
said it's
State.
yeah, it's his seventh year. So it's just it's not where the program stand. Okay, actually, I swear they said he was okay. He was at Bowling Green in 2023 as a junior, so must have been a JUCO guy 2 years before that. It's actually
Mhm.
not as bad. It's not as bad if when you say 7 years, I thought it was like 7 years across D1. But anyway, with this Kentucky team, as you're looking at them as we move toward the tournament, Subi, you said you don't know what you're going to get out of this team. Looking at bracket matrix, they're still projected as a six. If they're playing 11 seed Miami of Ohio in the first round, they're probably like 10-point favorites. I am not a betting man, but I would 100 if I was, I would 100% smash that Miami of Ohio cover, if not win outright. Like I'm at the point where every time I bought back into this Kentucky team, they let me down, and I think they are ripe for, if not a first round upset, at least a team keeping it, staying within striking distance and putting way more pressure on them than you would expect if you are Kentucky.
100%. This 2 game sample size is just so perfect, Kentucky. Flawless performance against Vanderbilt, opposite of flawless against Texas A&M. Again, outside of those minutes where you did build a 12-point lead. And yeah, I would advise you to take Miami of Ohio over Kentucky. Just throw out basketball reasons. It's more fun. Like, root for your bracket. You'd take an underseeded team that's probably going to get you more points in however your bracket breaks down, the point breakdown. And this is one of my general rules of thumb for NCAA tournament like March Madness. I don't care, unless you're a Kentucky fan, of course. But if you're a neutral observer, if you're not a fan of them, like if you took Kentucky and over Miami of Ohio, and Miami of Ohio is leading by 8 with 2 minutes to go, I don't want to hear you rooting for Kentucky, man. Like, we are all in the same boat. Root for the upset. But I genuinely have no idea what I'm going to get with this Kentucky team. By the way, very quickly, how perfect is it that, and I'm not making fun of the injury. I hope he's okay. But Trent Noah rolls an ankle on Mark Pope's foot, like when the game is over in garbage time. It's just, I don't know.
Insult to
Sometimes
injury,
there's
as they
just a
say.
calamity. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Uh, Man, I don't even really know what else to say, Subi. You kind of summed it up with just that is the embodiment of Kentucky season. It's get some good production and then it's just the bottom falls out unexpectedly. So we'll see if they can rebound. They do have Florida coming to the crib next. Something tells me that will not end in their favor. So you might have to look ahead to next week, Kentucky fans, to feel any positive momentum. We'll see if they can scrap and claw and fight their way back in the SEC tournament.